What are you most proud of in your life?
Most proud of?
Yeah.
Man, damn, dude. You just came at me with something I wasn't. You gave me like the goosebumps of enthusiasm. The most proud of? Man, probably just doing it at all. You know,
Having
I
the
was
balls.
just having the. I don't even know if I would have had the balls, but it was. I've told this, so I'll tell like a hopefully interesting version if you've heard it before. I used to go to Catch a Rising Star in Cambridge, Massachusetts,
Yes, I know.
to
I'm from
watch.
Boston.
But I had a lot of anxiety. I'm an anxiety-riddled kind of human being. Not as much now as then. A lot of like social anxiety. My mom was phobic. I got a lot of that. Like everything.
When did you realize you had anxiety?
Oh.
Because when we were growing up, anxiety was like what Woody Allen would talk about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my anxiety. And then it
Right.
became like a real thing. It's like a real problem. When did you realize?
Really early on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was already identifying, like, I was terrified to go to elementary school.
Yeah.
I was sick, physically sick, like, couldn't, like, I was shaking in the morning. The first thing I thought of is I need to be around people and strangers. And so I realized it as soon as I don't know, like, at a young age.
So you weren't a cool kid as you were a kid?
No way. I was the wallflower. I was the Star Wars geek. I had one friend named Eugene, and he was kind of the heavy-set kid that, like, he took a lot of the hits, and I kind of just stood next to him, and then, like, after everybody left, was like, sorry, I couldn't help. I was scared, too. So, no. I was not the cool anything.
And that made you funny.
But I was observing everything.
Yeah.
I was like a probe droid, and I was absorbing human behavior and the way teachers behaved, and, like, I was really, like, so tuned in because I wanted to be like other people that I think I was just observing them to try to go, how can I be that confident? How can I insert myself in those conversations? The way that kid just walked up to that locker and started saying, hey, da, da, da. I was none of those things.
I had a similar thing because I would...
I don't really have time for that story, but if you can go to the next question for me, and maybe you could like do like a later edit by yourself.
Can we pick
Maybe
this up
without the
after
hat.
when Dana's done? Is it going to match? I had a similar thing when I would perform in New York and do characters, and I did pretty well doing these characters. And then one night in LA, I went to, remember Luna Park over here? And I said, I'm just going to go up as myself and try. And that, for me, I went up, once I did it, I started bawling. Yeah. The next morning, I drove to the beach. It was so emotional for me.
When you say you went up as yourself, you mean like you went up?
I went up as Jason Nash.
Okay.
I wasn't going up there as the coach or as the fireman or whatever. And
Yeah.
that was so tough for me to be myself.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah, which you would think to be yourself should be so easy.
As years go by, the magic of stand-up, if you stick with it and it sticks with you, is the more introspective. If I add introspective into observe and report, that's a funny thing. Now let me tell you how I feel from it. That's like next level. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of comics miss. It's where you can watch comedy. I don't know if you do this. Like you can see somebody and be like, man, this person has all the elements, but they're missing that one little piece.
Yes.
And normally what I see in that is they're just not letting them in enough.
Right.
Let them in a little bit more. You're telling us all this stuff, but tell us about you.
How do you let people in more?
Where I started to figure out what I did a crying bit that Marty Culliner directed when I did Vicious Circle, and that was like 2005. And my mom was sick with cancer. Yeah. And she couldn't come to the fucking show, and I was so upset that she couldn't see me at Boston Garden when she saw me playing laundromats and attics of Chinese food restaurants. And she was too ill. She was in Delray Beach, Florida, and she couldn't make the trip. And I had a bit about crying, and it was a funny bit story about just like the things that you do when you're really sad. But I was really sad that my mom wasn't there, and the bit took on a new meaning because I was really telling people that I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, this is how I came to this piece of material because I'm sad about my mom.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was in that moment. And then seeing the edit and then the reaction for years, people saying, in my lowest moment when I feel really, and people have told me some real grim stuff. They go, I think of what you said in that bit and how you kept saying, I did my best. Yeah. That one credo we hold on to that we say when we cry. Everybody's got their weird thing you repeat. And mine was, I did my best.
You're on stage crying?
I'm as close to crying as I can be in the bit. But I'm finding pieces that are even more organic because I'm really letting it come through me because I'm like, my mom's going to see that. I'm going to bring this footage to her, or it's going to air. And it allowed me to go to that introspective place, the real Dane Cook with the material. And then the fans emboldened me over the years by being like, that means so much to me that I was like, oh, that's what I always need to do. I have to have pieces of material where I tell you I'm broken.
Yes.
I'm awesome. And owning moments where you're like, I'm the shit. And then owning the moments where you're like, I feel like shit.
I think it's even tougher to own the moments where you're the shit.
You think it's
I think that's hard for people.
I know they want to live vicariously through you in those moments.
It's hard for me. It's hard, even just walking about my day and people, how's it going? And I go, it's okay. How's the podcast? It's okay. And they go, what are you fucking talking about? You've got Dane Cook on your podcast today. You know what I mean?
Right.
People will say that to me. You know, and it is hard to. I don't know why. I do have problems doing that.
But do you think that maybe like those are things that you put up that you're like, no, I need to be that guy. I need to be the guy that works through the thing that I'm not so feeling so good about. What would happen if you walked out the door and were like, follow me today? I know where we're all going. Because I do. I have other days where I walk out the door and I go, I don't even believe in God, but I hope he's there. Help! It's just like, I try to, now in my stand-up, the first things that I normally say when I go up on stage is an absolute truth. I open with an absolute truth. Eyes are the windows to the soul. It's putting something out in an energy in the audience where they like me or not, they go, but I believe them. If they believe you, then you can kind of take them anywhere.
What's an example of an absolute truth?
Oh, like an opening?
Yeah, opening, yeah.
I've had a lot of them. I mean, quite literally, not to keep it on the night my dad had passed away, I happened to be in LA.
Who went first, your mom or dad?
My mom passed of cancer. A week later, my dad sat me down and said, I have cancer. And then they were both gone within 9 months of each other. Yeah. I'd like to think if I had more parents, they would have died as well in that same time frame.
They're dropping like flies. All of my 14 parents.
But I had to go up on stage at that point, and I think I just opened with that. I told the audience, and man, was that like some people didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, but that's okay. That's where I'm to begin. That's what real, it's like art. That's what real creativity. I think the first time the paintbrush touches the canvas has to be with the emotion of like, what am I really trying to put on there?
Yeah.
And if it is just like, I'm just gonna do that first, then that's what you'll get from your audience.
I saw a really cool paparazzi video of you the other day. It was it was so good.
Okay.
It's like you're like coming out of the gym.
Yeah.
You got your bike, and the guy stops you.
Oh, he's like walking with me.
Yeah,
down the
and
street.
you go journey with me, and you walked with him forever. Yeah. And I just thought to myself, oh, that is, it's so simple. People can't handle paparazzi, but that's how you do it.
I kept it like back in that year, because I was a little bit older. That was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, just treat every because I get anxious still around people.
Yeah.
I still come out of that spot and I feel like that same kind of, I still just deal with a lot of anxiety.
Really?
Yeah. It's still there, man. If I let it get the best of me, then
take medication?
Can't breathe. No medication.
No medication.
I've never taken any meds, but like just know all the techniques and the way, I did Al-Anon meetings when I was a kid with my mom, and I learned all these things to do when you're like feeling like you're, fight or flight and like being painted into your own corner. Uh-huh. And I learned anytime I'm nervous, and I had a dinner the other night. I treated it the same way as the paparazzi. I had a charity dinner with a couple that bid to have dinner with me, but I didn't know them. So I just had to go and sit with 2 people that I didn't know. And I was really anxious about it.
Yeah.
And I just, whether it was the paparazzi or if I go in like it's a rolling podcast or rolling interview, and I go into interview mode. And so when I say like journey with me, now it's like I have a little bit of control in the situation. Because the awkward silence for whatever is always what haunts me. Like, I'm not going to be interesting in that moment. I don't know. I'm just not going to like.
That's trained because you're trained from doing stand-up that you have to fill those silences. You have to get laughs.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and you've done so much stand-up. You've gotten so good at it. It must be hard to be a real person.